The aircraft on this list don't just break your sense of scale, they break the mental category you put aeroplanes in. By the time you reach the last one, the plane you flew on last summer is going to feel like a carry-on bag with wings. "385 feet. That's the wingspan of the Stratolaunch rock, wider than an American football field from end zone to end zone, with room to spare. From a distance, it looks like two aircraft fused at the wing, because that's exactly what it is. Twin fuselages, 6 engines, 28 wheels, and a center section wide enough to suspend a hypersonic vehicle the size of a fighter jet underneath it. On the ground, it looks industrial, almost ungainly. In the air, it becomes something else entirely, a flying launch platform that carries hypersonic test vehicles to 35,000 feet and drops them into powered flight above the Mojave Desert. The man who funded it, Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen, spent hundreds of millions of dollars on the project and died 6 months before it ever left the ground. His team flew it anyway. It has now completed over 20 flights. It is so wide that you have to roll it out of its hangar just to see the whole airplane at once. In 1942, German submarines were sinking Allied cargo ships in the Atlantic at a rate that threatened to decide the war. The solution Howard Hughes proposed was an aircraft so large it could carry 750 fully equipped troops across the ocean without touching the water at all. Built entirely from laminated birchwood because the government had locked down aluminium and steel for the war effort. It took 5 years, nearly bankrupted the project twice, and attracted a Senate investigation that accused Hughes of wasting public funds. On August 6, 1947, Hughes told the committee, "I put the sweat of my life into this thing. If it fails, I'll probably leave this country and never come back." 3 months later, during what was announced as a routine taxi test on Long Beach Harbor, with 36 people aboard and most journalists already gone to file their stories, Hughes pushed the throttle, pulled back on the yoke, and flew. 26 seconds, 25 feet above the water. It never flew again. Hughes kept a crew of 300 people maintaining it in a climate-controlled hangar at a cost of $1 million per year until he died in 1976. The Soviet Union needed to move a space shuttle from its assembly facility to its... So they built one. The AN-225 Mriya, Dream in Ukrainian, had a maximum takeoff weight of 640 tons, 6 engines, 32 wheels, and a cargo deck large enough to carry diesel locomotives, The second airframe, partially built since the Soviet era, sits unfinished somewhere in Ukraine right now. The AN-225 had a full crew, enough fuel to reach Germany, and an open run. The Director General that morning, "Do you give the order?" The AN-124 was built to land on compacted snow, frozen swampland, and dirt strips in conflict zones where no strategic airlifter had any business operating. That constraint produced something unexpected. The entire nose hinges upward, while the rear ramp lowers simultaneously, letting vehicles drive straight through the aircraft from front to back. The cargo floor is titanium. The landing gear kneels to meet standard truck bed height. The US Army, which operates the C-5 Galaxy, still contracted AN-124s for cargo that didn't fit anywhere else. After February 2022, 4 Russian-operated AN-124s were stranded, 1 in Canada, 3 in Germany, grounded by sanctions, accruing parking fees at foreign airports while a war their operators started continues with no end date. The cargo hold of the C-5 is 1 foot longer than the entire distance of the first powered flight in history at Kitty Hawk. 1 foot. Inside that hold, 2 M1 Abrams tanks, or 6 Apache helicopters, or the complete fuselage of a disassembled C-130. The aircrews call it Fred. Fucking ridiculous economic environmental disaster. Because it carries the highest operating cost of any weapon system in the US Air Force inventory. When Boeing lost the military contract to Lockheed in 1965, they took the raised cockpit concept they'd developed for the competition and turned it into the 747. Lockheed won the contract and nearly went bankrupt building it. There are 52 C-5Ms still in service. The Air Force plans to fly them until 2040. No replacement exists. The most expensive aircraft to operate in the American fleet cannot be retired because nothing else does what it does. You're sitting in the upper deck of a 747, drink in hand, somewhere over the Atlantic. Now consider that space was never supposed to exist. The 747's lead engineer Joe Sutter believed supersonic jets would make his airplane obsolete within a decade, so the cockpit was pushed upward to free the nose for a cargo door, and the hump was born as a logistics solution, not a passenger feature. During a walkthrough of the full-scale mock-up, Pan Am founder Juan Trippe noticed the empty space behind the cockpit and asked what it was for. Engineers said, "Crew rest." Trippe turned it into a first-class bar. That accidental decision, cargo door logic, producing a luxury lounge, shaped 5 decades of international air travel. More than 1,574 units were built. The last was delivered in 2023. Freighter variants still carry more than half of all air cargo volume worldwide. The plane, designed to be temporary, outlasted every supersonic aircraft built to replace it. Airbus ended A380 production in 2021 without announcing a successor. The only double-deck jetliner still flying was discontinued while passengers were still lining up to board it. The reason is straightforward. The A380 was designed for a world of massive hub airports and connecting flights, and most airlines couldn't fill 2 decks consistently enough to justify the operating costs. Most operators retired their fleets early. Then there's Emirates. The Dubai carrier operates 93 active A380s, more than every other airline on Earth combined, and recently committed $3 billion to refurbish the fleet for another 15 years of service. They built an entire concourse at Dubai International specifically for the aircraft. Their first-class passengers board the upper deck through a dedicated air bridge and step into a cabin with a bar, a shower, and 145 nationalities on a single flight. When these aircraft eventually retire, there is no replacement coming. The double-deck experience disappears with them. How is a bomber designed in 1952 still flying combat missions today? The answer isn't sentiment. The B-52 carries more payload per dollar per flight hour than any alternative in the American arsenal. The B-1 is faster. The B-2 is stealthier. Both cost between 5 and 10 times more to operate per hour. So the Air Force kept the B-52 and built the others anyway. Right now, in 2025, The service is replacing the B-52's original engines, not because the airframe failed, but because the companies that made those engines no longer exist. The new engines will extend service life to 2050. A pilot who flies the B-52 in 2050 will be operating a structure designed before their grandparents were born, updated with systems their grandparents couldn't have imagined. That's not a failure of modernization. That's what it looks like when something is built so well that replacing it never quite makes financial sense. The Soviet Union needed to reach places that had no paved runways, no ground infrastructure, and no margin for error. Siberian permafrost, Angolan dirt strips, frozen military airfields where jet engines couldn't operate reliably in extreme cold. The AN-22 was the answer. 4 NK-12 turboprop engines, each driving 2 contra-rotating propellers 6.2 meters in diameter. They remain the most powerful turboprop engines ever built. Nobody has surpassed them. The noise inside the cabin at full power is classified as potentially harmful to hearing with prolonged exposure. In the 1970s, AN-22s landed on unimproved strips in Angola carrying heavy military equipment. Decisions made by field commanders who needed results in hours, not engineers reviewing risk assessments in weeks. The AN-22 is still in operational service with the Russian aerospace forces today. Nearly 60 years after its first flight, no country has built a turboprop louder, heavier, or more deliberately unstoppable.